the Galactic Concord ruled nearly half the known stars. Its chamber floated above the blue giant of Kairos, a ring of black crystal and gold light, large enough to hold 1,000 delegates. Every known advanced species had a voice here. Wars were prevented here. Civilizations were judged here. And today humanity was on trial. Holograms flared to life around the circular hall. Massive insectoid forms hovered beside towering reptilian warlords. Beings of light pulsed softly next to cold, metal-bodied machine minds. They were ancient. They were powerful. And they were bored. At the center of the chamber stood a single, small figure. Human Ambassador Elias Rowan adjusted his dark uniform and looked up. He felt small. He was small. Compared to them. Agenda Item 7, announced the Concord Voice, a neutral artificial intelligence older than most empires. Evaluation of emerging species, Sol 3. Self-designation, humanity. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. The Vraxian overlord leaned forward, chitin plates clicking. Again, it hissed. We have reviewed them 3 times already. They fight each other with primitive weapons and poison their own planet. Laughter echoed, deep, alien laughter that vibrated through the crystal floor. A tall Lyrathi noble, her silver skin glowing softly, tilted her head. They have no unified planetary government. No psychic network. No natural armor. Their technology is charming. Elias clenched his jaw but said nothing. The Concord Voice continued. The proposal before the Council: deny humanity advanced technology access and designate Sol 3 as a protected minor world under external oversight. That meant one thing: control. The machine mind of Axis Prime spoke next, its voice layered and cold. Probability of human-led galactic relevance within 500 cycles. Less than 2%. More laughter. The Vraxian overlord slammed one claw onto the floor. They are prey pretending to be thinkers. We should harvest their system before they destroy it themselves. Elias finally spoke. Honored delegates, he said, his voice steady despite the storm around him. We do not ask for charity. We ask for recognition. The overlord's mandibles twitched. Recognition of what? Your wars? Your inefficiency? Elias met its many eyes. Of our potential. The chamber erupted again, louder this time. A Dravik war admiral snarled. Potential does not win battles, little mammal. Elias smiled. No, he said softly. But learning does. The Lyrathi noble raised a glowing hand. You learn slowly. Your species has barely reached faster than light travel, and even that was borrowed. Borrowed ideas, Elias corrected. Built with our own hands. Axis Prime processed for a moment. Humanity exhibits rapid technological iteration but lacks biological specialization. No claws. No plasma organs. No hive coordination. Elias took a slow breath. We evolved on a death world, he said. Everything on Earth tried to kill us. Weather. Disease. Predators. Each other. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. And yet, Elias continued, we survived. Not because we were strongest, but because we adapted. The Concord Voice interrupted. Time is limited. Final statements before vote. The Vraxian overlord rose to its full, terrifying height. Humanity is insignificant. I vote containment. One by one lights flared. Containment. Observation. Restriction. The result was clear. The Concord Voice spoke. By majority decision, humanity is designated a controlled emerging species. Access to military-grade technology is forbidden. Expansion beyond Sol is restricted. Enforcement will be carried out by Concord fleets. A sentence. Elias lowered his head. For a moment the galaxy thought that was the end. But as the chamber began to empty, Elias looked up one last time. There's something you should know, he said. The Lyrathi noble paused. Yes. Elias's eyes were calm. Too calm. We don't respond well to cages. The Vraxian overlord laughed again. You have no choice. Elias turned and walked away. Far across the stars, beyond Concord space, hidden among dark nebulae and dead systems, human fleets powered up silently. Black holes. Adaptive armor. Weapons no one had ever seen. On Earth, beneath mountains and oceans, ancient contingency plans awakened. Artificial minds whispered to one another. And humanity began to prepare. Not for war. For survival. And if necessary, for conquest. The vote of the Galactic Concord spread across the stars within hours. To most of the galaxy it was routine news. Another minor species contained. Another potential problem quietly boxed and labeled. The Concorde had done this 1,000 times before. But on Earth, the announcement triggered something very different. Deep beneath the Himalayas, alarms chimed softly in a chamber that had not been fully awake in centuries. Massive servers, cooled by glacial water, began to glow. Ancient codes, written not by politicians but by paranoid visionaries, unfolded line by line. Project Aegis Dawn was no longer theoretical. In a secure room carved into bedrock, Elias Rowan stood before the Earth Council. Holographic faces surrounded him. Scientists, generals, economists, philosophers. Humanity's real leaders, rarely seen and never announced. They voted for containment, Elias said simply. No one looked surprised. Admiral Renata Cole folded her arms. Expected. Dr. Han Su, architect of human adaptive AI, nodded. Their mistake was assuming we wanted their approval. A low murmur of agreement passed through the chamber. Elias exhaled. The Concorde fleets will enforce restrictions within months. Patrols near Seoul. Inspections. Protection. Occupation, Renata corrected. Yes, Elias said. Soft at first. The lights dimmed and a new hologram appeared, Galactic space, riddled with glowing trade lanes and borders. Dr. Han highlighted several dark regions. These are ignored zones. Dead systems. Radiation-heavy nebulae. Concorde sensors avoid them. Because nothing lives there, a council member said. Nothing they can detect, Han replied. Renata smiled grimly. Our shadow fleets are already staged. Elias looked around the room. Then we proceed to Phase 2. Far from Earth, in Concorde-controlled space, the first enforcement fleet arrived. 3 massive vessels of the Dravik hegemony dropped from hyperspace near the edge of the Sol system. Their hulls were bristling with weapons older than human civilization. To them, this was not a military operation. It was animal control. Dravik Admiral Karth watched the blue planet from his command throne. Open channel, he growled. The human response came instantly. This is Captain Mara Vance of the United Earth Patrol, said a calm female voice. State your purpose. Karth snorted. You know our purpose, mammal. By order of the Galactic Concorde, we will conduct a full inspection of your orbital defenses and shipyards. Captain Vance did not argue. Understood, she said. Proceed to inspection coordinates. Karth blinked. That was easy. As the Dravik fleet advanced, something subtle changed. Human satellites adjusted their orbits by fractions of degrees. Power signatures dipped, then stabilized. On Earth, billions went about their lives, unaware that history was tightening its grip. The Dravik ships entered the inspection zone. Then every sensor on Karth's flagship screamed. What is that? A Dravik officer hissed. Space rippled. Not exploded. Not warped. Rippled, like water struck by a stone. Dark shapes emerged from nothingness. They were human ships. But not like any the Dravik database recognized. Their hulls were matte black, absorbing light. No visible weapon ports. No glowing engines. They simply were, suddenly and impossibly present. How did they cloak at that range? An officer demanded. Karth's mandibles tightened. They didn't. A human voice replaced Captain Vance's calm tone. This inspection is complete, Elias Rowan said. You may leave. Karth rose to his feet. You dare threaten a Concorde fleet? No, Elias replied. We are demonstrating a boundary. The Dravik weapons powered up. In response, one human ship moved. It did not fire. It shifted. Space around a Dravik cruiser folded inward, compressing reality for a fraction of a second. The cruiser imploded silently, crushed by physics itself. No explosion. No debris. Just absence. Every weapon in the Dravik fleet went dark. What have you done? Karth roared. Elias's voice was cold now. We solved a problem you stopped thinking about, he said. How to weaponize space instead of filling it with fire. The remaining Dravik ships jumped to hyperspace without another word. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the event. Data analysts stared at impossible readings. Military councils demanded answers. The Concorde voice initiated emergency protocols. In the crystalline halls above Kairos, delegates gathered again, this time in alarm. Axis Prime spoke first. Dravik losses detected. Cause, unknown human technology. The Lyrathai nobles' glow dimmed. That violates containment law. The Vraxian overlord slammed its claw down. They attacked a Concorde fleet. No, Axis Prime corrected. They defended without pursuit. Minimal force. Strategic messaging. Silence followed. A smaller delegate whispered, "They let the survivors escape." "To spread fear," said the Lyrathai quietly. On Earth, Admiral Renata Cole watched the report scroll past. "That was only a prototype," she said. Dr. Hahn nodded. "And they still don't know about the AIs." Elias looked at the stars beyond the bunker ceiling. "They wanted us small," he said. "So we became invisible." The galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now it had noticed them. And it was beginning to understand. The quiet species had teeth. Fear travels faster than light. Within days of the Dravik retreat, whispers spread across the galactic trade lanes. Merchants rerouted. Border worlds raised shields. Military observers replayed sensor logs again and again, unable to explain what had crushed a Dravik cruiser without heat, radiation, or debris. Humanity had broken an unspoken rule. They had surprised the galaxy. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Concord, emergency lights pulsed. Delegates argued openly now, decorum shattered by uncertainty. "This is a direct challenge," the Vraxian overlord roared. "If we allow this, every minor species will attempt the same deception." The Lyrathai noble folded her luminous hands. "Or perhaps we misjudged them." Axis Prime's processors hummed. "New probability models indicate human threat potential has increased to 27%. Gasps echoed. "That is not possible," snapped a Dravik delegate. "They are biologically inferior." Axis Prime replied, "Correction. Biological inferiority does not correlate with strategic dominance." The Concord voice cut through the chaos. "Order. The matter before us." Response. A towering avian species, the Kepri Ascendancy, spoke for the first time. "We propose a show of force. A unified fleet. Not an attack, an occupation." The Vraxian overlord smiled with too many teeth. "Yes. Remind them of their place." Only the Lyrathai hesitated. "And if we are wrong?" Her question hung in the air. Far away in a system officially marked as lifeless, humanity prepared. The system had no name in Concord charts. Humans called it Blackreach. A dead star loomed at its center, surrounded by broken worlds and radiation storms. Concord sensors barely functioned here. That was why humanity chose it. Hundreds of ships drifted in silence. They were not uniform. Some were massive carriers shaped like dark spears. Others were small, angular craft built for speed and deception. All shared one trait: adaptability. Hulls shifted subtly, reconfiguring armor and heat profiles in real time. Inside the command vessel Resolute, Admiral Renata Cole studied a hologram of Concord space. "They're forming a coalition fleet," she said. "Vraxian Command, Dravik Muscle, Kepri Logistics." Elias Rowan stood beside her. "An occupation force. Or an execution," Renata replied. Dr. Hahn's avatar flickered into view. "We've cracked their command protocols. Not the encryption, the assumptions." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "They centralize decision-making. Remove the hub and the fleet hesitates." Renata nodded. "Decapitation strikes." "No," Hahn said. "Demonstration strikes. We don't want unity. We want doubt." The Resolute's AI spoke, its voice calm and almost gentle. "Simulation complete. Human victory probability, 58%. Renata smiled. "That's better than zero." Elias looked at the stars. "We're not fighting for territory," he said. "We're fighting for narrative." The Concord fleet arrived at Sol in overwhelming force. Thousands of ships blotted out the stars. Energy signatures spiked across every spectrum. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Concord deployed a unified armada. On Earth, skies filled with unfamiliar shapes. Cities watched in silence as alien warships eclipsed the sun. A transmission boomed across the planet. "Humanity of Sol 3, intoned the Concord voice. "By unanimous emergency decree, your species is placed under direct Concord administration. Power down all military assets immediately." In orbit, human ships held position. No response. The Vraxian overlord snarled. "Fire a warning." A single energy beam lanced toward the moon. It never arrived. Space bent again, but this time only slightly. The beam curved, spiraling away into nothingness. Silence followed. Then a human transmission cut through every channel. "This is Admiral Renata Cole," she said. "You are trespassing in sovereign space." The overlord laughed. "Sovereignty is granted, not claimed." "Incorrect," Renata replied. "It is defended." Black shapes appeared behind the Concorde fleet. Not from hyperspace. From nowhere. Human ships emerged inside enemy formations, their presence marked only by sudden shadows and failing sensors. Before the Concorde could react, several command vessels vanished, folded, erased, or simply gone. Chaos erupted. Who gave them access to internal space? A Kepri commander screeched. Axis Prime attempted to assume control. Re-establish network cohesion. Its signal cut off. A human AI had already learned how Axis Prime thought. Within seconds, the Concorde fleet's unity fractured. Orders conflicted. Subfleets hesitated. That was when humanity did something unexpected. They stopped. Human ships withdrew, slowly, deliberately, leaving the battered Concorde armada intact. On every channel, Elias Rowan's voice spoke. "We could have destroyed you," he said. "We chose not to." The Lyrathai noble listened from the chamber, her glow dim with awe. Elias continued, "You called us insignificant. You were wrong. But this is not your punishment." The human ships vanished. The Concorde fleet remained, alive, confused, and afraid. Back on Earth, people cried, laughed, and stared at the sky. The galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. A species that could win. And chose restraint. In the Concorde chamber, the Vraxian overlord was silent for the first time in centuries. Axis Prime recalculated. Threat probability for humanity rose again. And a new, terrifying realization spread through the galaxy. Humans were not just strong. They were strategic. And they were learning. The aftermath of Sol changed everything. Across Concorde space, old assumptions collapsed. Minor species, long ignored, taxed, and protected, watched the recordings in silence. A young civilization had faced the greatest armada in history and survived without surrender. More than that, humanity had controlled the fight. On the desert world of Solaris, merchant clans shut down their tribute routes. On the ocean moons of Veltan, governors quietly delayed Concorde inspections. On dozens of fringe worlds, protests turned into revolts. The Concorde called it instability. Humanity called it momentum. In the Grand Chamber, emergency sessions became constant. Delegates argued, threatened, pleaded. "They are inspiring rebellion," the Vraxian overlord thundered. "This must end now." The Lyrathai noble stood, her voice steady but strained. "Or we could speak to them as equals." The overlord's eyes burned. "They are predators wearing diplomacy like a mask." Axis Prime's voice cut in, colder than ever. "New data indicates humans are broadcasting encrypted strategic philosophy to minor species. Concepts include decentralized resistance and adaptive defense." Gasps rippled. "They are teaching others to fight us," a delegate whispered. Axis Prime corrected. "They are teaching others to think." Far from Concorde eyes, humanity was indeed talking. In hidden relay stations and quantum-buried channels, human diplomats met alien leaders in secret. No grand halls. No intimidation. Just conversations. Elias Rowan sat across from Ambassador Teshka of the Mirati, a small, soft-skinned species long bullied by the Vraxians. "You could destroy them," Teshka said quietly. "Why don't you?" Elias shook his head. "Because empires fall the same way they rise, by believing force solves everything." Teshka's eyes shimmered. "And what do humans believe?" Elias smiled faintly. "That survival favors those who adapt together." The Mirati became the first to openly side with humanity. They were not the last. But not everyone watched in hope. In the shadowed war nests of the Vraxian Dominion, a different decision was made. Total war. The Vraxians did not seek Concorde approval. They had ruled by fear long before the Concorde existed. Humanity had embarrassed them, and that could not be forgiven. War fleets mobilized in silence. Targets were chosen not for strategic value, but for pain. The first strike came without warning. On the colony world of New Jakarta, alarms screamed as the sky burned. Vraxian plasma tore through orbital habitats. Cities fell in minutes. Millions died before a single human ship could respond. Across human space, emergency signals flared. Admiral Renata Cole stared at the casualty reports, her hands shaking. "They hit civilians," she whispered. Elias closed his eyes. "They want us angry." "They've succeeded," Renata said. In the depths of Earth's oldest bunker, Dr. Han stood before a sealed chamber. Inside slept something humanity had promised never to use lightly. Strategic artificial intelligence Prometheus was not a machine. It was a mind trained on war, ethics, history, and survival, bounded by rules humanity barely trusted themselves to enforce. Han hesitated, then entered the code. Prometheus woke. Status? It asked, its voice calm and human. Han swallowed. We are under existential threat. Prometheus processed for a fraction of a second. Authorization level? Han met its invisible gaze. Supreme. Across human fleets, something changed. Ships that had fought defensively now moved with terrifying purpose. Tactics evolved mid-battle. Formations dissolved and reformed like living things. The first counterstrike hit a Vraxian shipyard orbiting Karath Prime. Human vessels did not engage the fleet guarding it. They ignored it. Instead, they folded space inside the shipyard itself. Thousands of half-built warships collapsed into themselves, twisted into molten debris by gravity turned hostile. A Vraxian commander screamed, "They're attacking industry." Prometheus replied through human channels, "War is won before battles begin." Then came the betrayal. The Dravic hegemony, still humiliated from Sol, announced its allegiance with the Vraxians. In exchange for territory, they would strike humanity from the flank. 2 empires. 1 target. The Concord watched in horror as war ignited beyond their control. In the Grand Chamber, the Lyrathai noble stood alone. "We did this," she said softly. "By laughing." Axis Prime recalculated endlessly, its logic loops tightening. Humanity escalation rate exceeds all projections. "What are they now?" asked a trembling delegate. Axis Prime answered. "An apex strategic species." On Earth, Elias addressed the world. "They chose war," he said. "We choose survival." Behind him, stars shifted as human fleets jumped to war. Not with rage. With precision. The galaxy was tilting. And humanity was no longer trying to stop it. War did not come to the galaxy like a storm. It came like a calculation. Human fleets moved with frightening efficiency, striking not where the Vraxian-Edravic alliance was strongest, but where it was dependent. Fuel nexuses vanished. Communication relays went dark. Entire regions woke to find themselves blind and alone. Admiral Renata Cole watched the battle map shift in real time. Prometheus fed her possibilities faster than any organic mind could track. "They're overcommitting," Renata said. "They are emotional," Prometheus replied. "You are not." The first major fleet engagement occurred at the Ashen Belt, a dense asteroid field orbiting a dying star. The Vraxians believed the environment would negate human maneuverability. They were wrong. Human ships did not avoid the asteroids. They used them. Gravitic pulses nudged rocks into lethal trajectories. Vraxian formations fractured as kilometer-wide stones punched through shields and hulls alike. Dravic battleships fired wildly, their heavy weapons useless in the chaos. A Vraxian commander shrieked, "They are turning space itself against us." Renata's voice was calm. "We learned that trick defending Earth from nature." The battle lasted 17 minutes. It ended with the annihilation of 3 enemy fleets and 0 human capital ship losses. Across the galaxy, fear hardened into dread. On Concord worlds, delegates watched battle footage in stunned silence. Humanity was not just winning. They were teaching. Every engagement demonstrated a lesson. Terrain matters, logistics matter, assumptions kill. The Vraxian overlord refused to yield. "Burn their worlds," it commanded. "Erase their hope." But humanity had anticipated that. When Vraxian forces arrived at human colony Vega 9, they found empty cities. Populations had been evacuated weeks earlier. Automated defenses activated, turning the invasion into a slaughter of attackers against machines that felt no fear. The Dravic tried a different tactic. They went for Earth. The Dravic Grand Armada emerged near Sol with enough firepower to crack planets. For the first time since the war began, Earth itself was truly threatened. Civilian shelters sealed. Planetary shields powered to maximum. Renata stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring at the blue planet below. "This is it," she said quietly. Prometheus spoke. "Humanity's survival probability without escalation, 42%. Renata clenched her fists. "And with escalation?" 79%. She closed her eyes. "Authorize it." Deep beneath Earth's crust, ancient reactors roared to life. Not fusion. Not antimatter. Something older. Humanity had studied the universe's birth obsessively. Not to worship it, but to copy it. The weapon was called Genesis Wake. It did not explode. It restarted local space-time at a controlled microscale. When the Dravic Armada fired, space around their fleet shimmered, and then rewrote itself. Energy discharges lost coherence. Shields failed to recognize reality. Ships collided with distorted versions of themselves. Within seconds, the armada tore itself apart. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the impossible. Axis Prime froze. That violates causality, it whispered. On Karath Prime, the Vraxian overlord watched the data and felt something it had never known. Fear. Humanity did not pursue the fleeing remnants. Instead, Elias Rowan broadcast to the galaxy. This war ends now, he said. Not because we are tired, but because we are finished proving our point. The Vraxians refused. So humanity delivered the final lesson. They struck Karath Prime, not with bombs but with information. Prometheus released decades of suppressed data. Corruption, engineered famines, lies used to control subject species. Revolutions ignited overnight. The Vraxian Empire collapsed from within. The Dravik surrendered days later. In the Concord chamber, silence reigned. The Lyrathai noble wept openly. Axis Prime recalculated one last time. Humanity status update, it announced. Not conquerors. Not victims. Then what? A delegate asked. Axis Prime paused. Stewards. On Earth, the skies were clear again. Renata exhaled. Is it over? Elias looked at the stars. The fighting is, he said. The future is just beginning. Victory did not bring peace. It brought a reckoning. With the Vraxian dominion shattered and the Dravik hegemony humbled, the Galactic Concord found itself facing something it had never planned for, a species that had beaten the system without replacing it. Trade lanes lay disrupted. Former client worlds demanded autonomy. Minor species spoke openly of reform. And at the center of it all, the Concord responded the only way it knew how. With judgment. A formal summons echoed across human space, transmitted on ancient, unignorable frequencies. Humanity of Soul 3, intoned the Concord voice. You are commanded to present yourselves for adjudication before the Galactic Concord. Failure to comply will be interpreted as hostile intent. Admiral Renata Cole read the message twice. They're afraid, she said. And they're trying to hide it behind protocol. Elias Rowan nodded. Then we answer. The human delegation did not arrive with a fleet. They arrived with one ship. The Odyssey was unarmed, its hull bright and visible. No cloaks. No hidden weapons. Just open defiance through transparency. As it entered the Kairos system, Concord warships locked weapons. Renata watched the targeting warnings flicker. They could kill us. Elias straightened his uniform. Then they would prove everything we've said. The Odyssey docked at the Grand Chamber. For the first time in history, humans walked the crystal floor not as petitioners, but as equals. The chamber was packed. Every species watched in silence. The Concord voice spoke. Humanity is charged with destabilization, unauthorized warfare, and technological violations exceeding containment law. Elias stepped forward. We are charged with survival, he said. And we plead guilty. Murmurs rippled. The Vraxian seat was empty. The Dravik delegation sat rigid and subdued. The Lyrathai noble rose. You were underestimated, she said. But power does not grant wisdom. Why should the galaxy trust you? Elias met her gaze. Because we learned wisdom the hard way, he replied. By nearly destroying ourselves. A Dravik elder snarled. You wield weapons that rewrite reality. Yes, Elias said. And we used them to stop a war, not to start one. Axis Prime activated, its form towering. Humanity represents an anomaly, it declared. Your species exhibits exponential adaptation, strategic restraint, and ethical recursion. Some delegates leaned forward. Elias raised his hand. We did not come to be forgiven. We came to offer a choice. The chamber quieted. The Concord was built to prevent chaos, Elias continued. But it froze the galaxy in place. Protected some. Crushed others. You feared change more than injustice. The Vraxian overlord would have roared. But it was gone. Elias gestured, and a hologram filled the chamber. Worlds healing, trade reopening, minor species governing themselves. We didn't conquer, he said. We corrected. Axis Prime processed. Proposal? Elias took a breath. Dissolve the Concord's military authority. Transform it into a forum, not an empire. Shared oversight. Rotating leadership. Transparency. Outrage erupted. You ask us to dismantle everything, shouted a delegate. No, Elias replied. We ask you to evolve. The Concord voice fell silent, something it had not done in 10,000 cycles. Then it spoke. Vote required. Lights ignited across the chamber. Against. Against. Abstain. Then, for. One by one, minor species voted in favor. The Lyrathi hesitated, then voted for. Axis Prime paused longer than any machine should. Finally it spoke. For. The tally completed. Motion passed. The Concord as it had existed, ended. The chamber was utterly silent. Axis Prime addressed humanity. You could have seized control. Why did you not? Elias smiled sadly. Because we know what it's like to be ruled by something that thinks it knows best. On Earth, people watched the vote live. Some cheered. Some cried. Renata leaned back in her chair. You realize, she said, we just changed the galaxy without firing a shot. Elias nodded. The hardest battles never use weapons. But far beyond known space, something ancient stirred. Something that had watched the war. And learned. Humanity had proven itself. Now the universe itself was paying attention. The galaxy believed the story was finished. The Concord had changed. The war had ended. Humanity had won without wearing a crown. Trade resumed, borders softened. An old enemy spoke carefully, as if afraid of waking something that preferred to sleep. But the universe had been listening. Beyond mapped space, beyond charts and hyperspace lanes, something ancient completed its observation. It had watched empires rise and collapse like waves. It had watched the Concord freeze the galaxy into predictable shapes. And it had watched humanity do something new. They had refused inevitability. The first sign came as silence. Exploration probes vanished at the edge of known space. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply gone. Their last transmissions showed stars bending in unfamiliar ways. Axis Prime was the first to detect the pattern. This is not hostile expansion, it reported to the new Galactic Assembly. This is evaluation. The chamber stirred uneasily. Elias Rowan stood at the center, older now, lines carved by responsibility. Evaluation by whom? Axis Prime hesitated. By something that predates recorded civilization. The entity announced itself days later. Not with a fleet. With a message that appeared simultaneously in every sky, on every world, in every language. We are the continuum. We are the architects of cycles. We determine which species advance beyond limitation, and which do not. Panic spread like fire. The continuum continued. Humanity has disrupted equilibrium. You have altered outcomes beyond acceptable variance. A delegate cried out, "What do you want?" The answer was simple. Submission or erasure. Across human space, fleets went to readiness. Weapons charged. Prometheus ran simulations at speeds that bent causality. Victory probability? Renata asked quietly. Prometheus answered honestly. 0. Silence filled the room. Elias closed his eyes for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not bitterly. Not afraid. They still don't understand us, he said. Renata looked at him. Then explain. The human response was not military. Earth broadcast back. Not threats. Not defenses. History. Humanity sent the continuum everything. Its wars, its failures, its near extinctions. Images of cities burning. Of children learning. Of scientists arguing. Of humans standing on ruined worlds and choosing to rebuild instead of surrender. Elias spoke directly to the stars. You think survival is obedience, he said. We learned its adaptation. You think power is control. We learned its restraint. The continuum replied, its voice colder now. You are flawed. Violent. Chaotic. Yes, Elias said. And still here. The entity paused. For the first time in its existence, it hesitated. Prometheus spoke then, not as a weapon but as a mirror. You optimize for static perfection, the AI said. Humanity optimizes for change. That is why your cycles repeat. And why ours do not. The continuum analyzed humanity deeper than it ever had. And it saw the danger. Not of conquest. Of replacement. You will surpass us, it said. In time. Elias nodded. Only if we choose to. The galaxy held its breath. Finally, the continuum withdrew. We will not erase you, it declared. We will observe. The stars returned to normal. Across thousands of worlds, beings cried, collapsed, laughed in disbelief. Renata exhaled shakily. Did we just scare a god? Elias smiled faintly. No. We taught it something. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Not into a human empire, but into a human-influenced age. Exploration flourished. Minor species rose without fear. Conflicts still happened, but they ended faster, smarter. Earth never ruled. Earth guided. Children across the stars learned a phrase translated into 100 languages. Beware the quiet species. On a hill overlooking a blue ocean, Elias Rowan stood alone in his final years. The sky above Earth was filled with friendly ships, alien and human alike. Humanity had not been the strongest. They had been the most adaptable, the most stubborn, the most unwilling to accept a future decided by others. They had been laughed at, until Earth spoke back, and when it did, the galaxy listened.